Hello and welcome everybody. We are coming to you live from Tech Bar, the best bar on campus. We are so excited to have you joining us today for today's team tip on neurodiversity. We're going to go ahead and get our slides pulled up. I know I'm coming to you from a new space. You're probably noticing a different background. I promise I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. But first, I want to introduce you a little bit to our session today and what we will be talking about. So let's go ahead and do side by side here. I am Amanda Pritchard. I am with the Office of Information Technology, and I am the Microsoft 365 specialist. It is my job to help and troubleshoot the technology that we support for you on campus. In addition, my side hustle is getting to offer these trainings to you. We sit side by side and go through step by step, learning a new technique and a new skill that can help elevate your understanding of the services we offer. So next, I want to talk a little bit about Teams Live, because I know it's been a little bit before since we've done this before. So a Teams Live event, if this is your first time to join us, just note that you do have the ability to pause and rewind the video. So if you hover over the video feed right now, you'll see a line at the bottom of your screen. If there's any time that we're covering content that you don't understand or that you'd like a little further information about, please take a moment and you can pause and rewind there. We do have closed captions enabled. It's located at the bottom right of your screen. So if you'd like to activate closed captioning, you can use that now. We also have set up in 6 different languages live translation to go along with today's session. So you can see when underneath the closed captioning in the bottom right of your screen what those languages are, and then you can make that selection if there's a different language that you would like to follow along with. I want to call your attention to the fact that we do have a moderated chat in a live event. That's a little bit different than a Teams meeting. So the moderated chat allows you to submit questions to those that we have behind the scenes working the chat. I've got Joy behind the scenes as well as Neil, who are here and ready to answer those questions as you come in. You may not see it pop in on that main chat feed, but know that we are receiving them and responding as quickly as we can. In fact, we've gone ahead and we're dropping a link in the chat now. I want to make sure that everyone's able to navigate there and to hover over that post in the chat. There'll be an option for you to give a thumbs up. If you don't mind, go ahead and navigate there, give us a thumbs up, and that's just going to allow us to ensure that you're able to interact with our chat there. Okay, awesome. Looks like that's going along well. So next, I told you I would talk a little bit more about Tech Bar and where I'm coming from today. So I wanted to take a moment and just introduce Tech Bar. So if we can go full screen, please. So Tech Bar opened as a soft launch on campus just last week. So if you haven't been here yet, you may not be familiar with us. We're in the lower level of the student union, and the Tech Bar was designed to bring technology to campus and have it available for individuals to try out different services. So currently in the Tech Bar today, if you haven't heard of it already, is the Windows 11 launch. We have a variety of students here hanging out in the Tech Bar with me that are trying Windows 11. We have 3 desktop computers set up. So if you're trying to determine if this is a technology you want to upgrade to, this is your opportunity to come try it out in a safe space. And we have technicians standing by, ready to answer any of your questions that you may have about this technology. We strive here in the Office of Information Technology to provide you with information and resources so you feel equipped and capable of testing these items. So let's go ahead and since I gave you a little preview. Oh, I did mean to mention, we have our grand opening scheduled in November. So we'll send out emails and we'll send out communications. Until then, we're doing soft launch activities. but you'll be able to see that, see a little bit more in November. So let's go ahead and go back. We'll pull up those slides again, and I'm going to turn this over in just a moment to our guest speaker for today. So while we're getting those pulled up in a side-by-side format, we'll talk a little bit about the impact and the selection of today's event. There we go. Today's event was strategically placed amongst many other events in the month of October. This month is special for a myriad of reasons. I've only posted 3 on the screen for you today. It's National Diversity Week. It's Global Diversity Awareness Month. It's also Disability Employment Awareness Month. And I know there's many more events that I couldn't fit on this slide, but I wanted to talk to you about this and tell you a little bit that each event, each mission in October is under the same thread to allow us to collectively learn more about different groups and find ways that we can be more proactive in helping and connecting with others. And that's what today's session was specifically designed for. I'm going to go ahead and pull up a seat at the bar and sit down and let Neil take over with presenting today's session with neurodiversity and teaching us how our technical tools can help us to connect and collaborate with those with different cognitive differences. So without further ado, Neil, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Hi, thank you very much, Amanda. Yes, we're about to get started here with our training on neurodiversity. Let me just go ahead and share my screen now. So we'll be getting started here right now. All right, and I'll go ahead and minimize this just so that nobody else is seeing that. So we should be in full view now. Are we seeing my screen at this time?
We are.
All right, and I'll go ahead and get rid of this up at the very top here. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So thank you once again, Amanda. So now that we will get started with the accessibility training within Microsoft 365. Once again, please be sure to ask any questions as we go through the training. We want to make sure to drive as much clarity as possible, but let's go ahead and begin. So for starters, to really understand neurodiversity and really understand that there's so many different ways in which different people receive different things, it's very, very crucial to have accessibility tools inside of the different kinds of technology that we use on a regular basis. So what we're going to really take a dive into is how we've implemented that directly into the Microsoft 365 experience alongside how we have directly implemented it into Windows. Now, as part of this training, you will actually also happen to see Windows 11 because of the fact that that is what I will be teaching out of today. But if you are using Windows 10, you will see the same exact features and all the same exact capabilities in just about the same exact places as well, in the same settings menus, in places of that nature. But this will be for those who have wanted to take a good look at the operating system. This will also be a good quick peek at Windows 11 as well. But as I was saying, when it comes to that technology with the accessibility tools, we're going to be talking about it in Windows. We're going to be talking about it inside of Microsoft 365 as well, showing those features, showing what kinds of features are available to make sure that that as many of us are able to utilize the system as possible. And we will be demonstrating it in really as many places as we can with the time being allowed. So as we go through here, as we had said earlier, our mission and our mission statement here at Microsoft is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. Now, that's exactly what our products and services were designed for, and it's designed for people of all abilities. The more people who can utilize technology, the better that technology becomes, and the more possibilities for what that technology might become in the future, because more minds are able to be placed in that technology, or more people are able to use that to bring what's in their mind out into the real world. So the more people who have their hands on that technology, the more who can actually use that technology, the better. Now, when it comes to us utilizing Windows, Windows being such a wide range of such an encompassing tool for so many people in using it in so many different ways, we really wanted to make sure that we had those capabilities built into Windows itself. So things like, for instance, being able to dial down those distractions. Myself, I definitely have to say, any ways that I can keep myself less distracted throughout the days, the least distracted possible, the better. And when it comes to certain things like maybe certain kinds of animations and certain kinds of background images, sometimes those things can distract certain people. So there's the capability to disable those, as well as doing things like, for instance, having text suggestions. Text suggestions help us much easier, in a much easier fashion, find the different words that we might be looking for. And when it comes to having to really just come through, like to compose with a particular kind of message that we're typing, or if we are composing a document, having those text suggestions really helps. Then when it comes to reading comprehension, using things like reading view to be able to clear distracting content, as well as things like, for instance, learning tools. And alongside reading view and learning tools, both of those together are both encompassed into what we call Immersive Reader as well, which is a tool that you can utilize all throughout the Microsoft 365 suite that allows you to customize the way that the content that is being sent to you, or that you are reading, is presented. So things like, for instance, making text bigger, even being able to indicate certain parts of that text in certain ways so that it's easier for people of all different kinds of backgrounds to understand exactly what it is that they're reading. Different backgrounds, different neural needs. You will find that there are many tools inside of that Immersive Reader, and we will be taking a dive into Immersive Reader in this training. Then also Focus Assist. Focus Assist is something that I use on a regular basis. As an individual who is highly distractible, being able to have Focus Assist on, making sure that it blocks those alerts so that I'm not distracted on a regular basis by certain things that are going on, especially when you're active throughout various locations across the web, on different platforms, different applications that might be sending in notifications, people trying to contact you. That is the kind of thing that in some cases is exactly what you're looking for, but sometimes when you're trying to focus, it's not what you need. So because of that, there are tools just like Focus Assist. And those kinds of tools carry along right over to the Microsoft 365 suite when we're talking about things like learning tools, being able to use that Immersive Reader. Once again, you'll find that all across Microsoft 365, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, every one of the different solutions, including Teams as well, Microsoft Teams, being able to take a message and convert it to Immersive Reader so that you can really understand it and break it down the way you need to. And then as well, being able to very easily utilize things like OneDrive for those of us who might have a tendency to maybe not always keep track of our files in the best ways and make sure that we have the latest versions of our documents. Having cloud storage goes a long way. And in terms of that functionality, being able to even have things to help you stay organized, even in Outlook, being able to flag your messages, being able to customize or bridge the gap between OneNote and Outlook together so that you can keep track of certain things, even in your to-do list alongside the various things that you're doing inside of Outlook. And then furthermore, like I said, utilizing Word and PowerPoint whenever you're trying to create content and when you're trying to deliver it, various ways in order to actually really utilize different parts of that system in order to really get what you're trying to get done. All right. enough of these slides. Let's go ahead and jump into into our demonstration. So we'll go ahead and jump into our desktop environment. So here we are inside of Windows 10, or no, pardon me, we are inside of Windows 11. And we are going to get started. This is the very first, mind you, first presentation that I'm doing inside of Windows 11. So we are going to start with some of the different settings that you can set for yourself in order to really make things much more accommodating to your particular needs. So we're going to go down to the Start menu right here, which, as you see, is located in the center. And we will go ahead over to the settings. Now, there's a very important thing I want to point out about the settings in general. Now, this is something that I think will help a lot of people who might have trouble with remembering where to find things. There is something that you can almost always count on in today's versions of Microsoft Windows, and that is the Start menu. So if we were to go down to the Start menu, whether you're on Windows 11 and it's here in the center, or if you've moved it over to the left side, since you can do that for those of us who are familiar, or if you're on Windows 10 or previous version of Windows and it is on the left side, when you select it, if you do not see what you're looking for, I cannot stress this enough. If you do not see what you're looking for and you're not sure where it is, especially something like the settings menu, imagine it wasn't here for a moment. Maybe if it was not pinned, oh, I actually just pinned it instead. I'll unpin it. Let's imagine it was not pinned here on the Start menu. The easiest way to find anything is via this search. And I want to really point out that, sure, I can just click the search and just start typing right here to find what I'm looking for. But the truth of the matter is I can also just hit the Windows key and start typing. So what I can do is just hit Windows key on the keyboard and then just start typing settings. And here's the settings app. However, I want to point out something even more useful, especially when it comes to those of us who might not necessarily know where to find what we're looking for, but we know what it is we're looking for, especially when it comes to those settings. Something like, for instance, maybe I want to change maybe if I have a certain form of color blindness and I need to change my color filters, instead of going to the settings menu and looking for it, I could actually just hit the Windows key and type color filter. And there it is. It's right there. So you can also search for the setting specifically that you're looking for. So if I wanted to, in this case, I'm just going to type accessibility. If you notice, there's a bunch of accessibility options that are here. But the easiest way to find the entire list is ease of access. Oh, and that looks like that might not have been. So we'll go ahead and just go straight to the settings themselves and open up the entire settings menu. Now, this settings menu, the place where we're going to be looking is actually inside of the accessibility section right here. Now, this accessibility section is the place where you will find all of the different kinds of settings that are available in order to change things to suit your needs. So that includes various kinds of vision settings, various kinds of hearing settings, and interaction settings. Now, the ones that we're going to pay close attention to for this neurodiversity training are going to be things like, for instance, if we find that we need to enable the narrator, which you will see right here, you can enable the narrator, which allows the system to narrate everything that you see. I think I and then if you need to disable it, exit, and then it will no longer function. So you can turn it on here, and then you can adjust the settings inside of it. You can also decide whether or not you want that narrator just to start right at sign in or after sign in. So when you first log onto the computer, if you're the only person who is using this computer, you might want to use start narrator before sign in, so that even at the sign in screen, you can have the narrator available. Or maybe if you're not the only person who uses the computer and only you use the narrator, then that would be a reason to select after sign in. That way it only applies to your login. Now, another thing that a lot of people who probably need to be able to focus on various aspects of the application, another thing that you're able to do as well is you're able to adjust things like magnification. Now, magnification in this case is being able to change the size of everything. Personally, this is the exact size of everything that I prefer. However, depending on the needs of different people, you can actually decide to add a magnifier if necessary. Now you can select this magnifier right here. And now, based on wherever I am, it will zoom in on that particular area and it will follow my mouse in a smaller window. Then I'll go ahead and close it. Now you can decide how big that zoom level is going to be as well. So depending on what you need to have configured, you can change that zoom level. Now, one of the most useful things in this view that I really want to point out, and this is actually something that I'm going to set for myself as I usually have it set this way. For those of us who have a hard time keeping track of where we keep our pointer on the screen, there is the capability to customize the mouse pointer. Now currently mine is set to the default, this white. You can actually set it to the inverse, the black. However, my personal favorite is the third option, the inverted. And the reason why that is no matter what you're on at what particular time, it will be the absolute opposite color of that color. So it doesn't matter where you are, you will always see your mouse. So this is the kind of thing that that I personally love, especially when you're using things like, for instance, if you're using Microsoft Office a lot, you're using things like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and if you're using the default themes, it's a white theme usually. And if you have a white cursor, it's hard to sometimes find that cursor. So luckily, if you have this invert option on, it will always be the opposite colors of whatever you currently are hovering over, just like so. And I will keep it this way for the remainder of this training, as a matter of fact. So I will go ahead and close this. Now, for those of us who really like to make sure that certain things are where we need them, for those of us who need to keep track of certain things, for those of us who always need to be able to open that which we need to open, that's a great reason in Windows to keep certain things on the taskbar. Other people like to just keep them inside of the start menu, and the easiest way to do that is to take an icon, or you right click an icon and then you pin it. So if you want to always be able to access a certain application, you can either keep it inside of your start menu by going to all apps here, scrolling down, finding the app you're looking for, right clicking it, and then selecting pin. In this case, OneNote is already pinned to my start menu, so I'm not going to select that one. But perhaps instead, maybe I want to always be able to access Paint 3D. That's a great reason to pin it to the start. So in terms of those things that you always want to access, those things that, for instance, for those of us who might often lose that thing that we're always trying to access, that's a great reason to pin it to the start. To take that a step further, maybe those applications you always have open all the time for some reason or another, you might want to actually pin those to your start menu or to your taskbar down here. So I will go ahead and pin it to my taskbar. And that's what I have done here with the File Explorer, just like so. All right, now we mentioned a few other particular tools inside of the slides, things like, for instance, Focus Assist, which you will find in the bottom right-hand corner. Now, Focus Assist, like I said, actually allows for you to be able to essentially quiet down the notifications that you are receiving. And it is indicated by this moon symbol. So anywhere where you see this moon symbol, that is where you can decide to enable Focus Assist. Now, if I was to select the icons just to the left of the date and time, that's where you will find that Focus Assist once more. So this is Focus Assist when it's not turned on. It's usually looking like this. However, when you enable it, you can decide only priority messages only, alarms only, so only when you're receiving alarms, say for instance if you set certain timers or things of that nature, then that's all you will receive, and then off. So this is currently one of the shortcuts I have on this menu right here, which you can customize via the little edit quick settings option, which allows you to add more or remove them if necessary. So this is one of the ones that I have set. Focus Assist. But remember, if you go to the right, the date and time right here, which is also where your notifications are, at the very top, this is where you'll see your Focus Assist settings. And then this is the place where you'll see that list of all the different kinds of options for Focus Assist. You'll also even find automatic rules. So for those of us who really like to have our Focus Assist on at certain times, but we don't want to, we might not always be, we might not always remember to always turn it on. That's a good reason to have it automated for you, where you have it automatically turn on between, say, for instance, in this case, from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., which I will go ahead and enable. All right. So those are various tools that you have inside of Windows itself. Now we're going to jump into a couple more examples as we go forward. I do want to quickly pause and see if we have any questions so far.
Neil, I don't show any in the chat that have not already been answered.
All right, excellent. So we'll go ahead and I'll take a quick sip of water right here. All right, and then we'll continue on. So let's go ahead and open up our start menu one more time, and we're going to go ahead and open up Microsoft Edge. And here we are inside of Microsoft Edge. Now, when it comes to the functionality that I'm going to show you next, Microsoft Edge, as well as various other aspects of the operating system and the 365 suite, have some capabilities with them that allow you to really utilize, allow you to really do like different kinds of things. Utilize that neurodiversity training or that neurodiversity system whenever you need to. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look up something. We're going to look up a particular article, for instance. Let's go ahead and look up the article on Mars. So we're going to look up Mars. There's a couple of different things inside of this search. Let's just look at the solarsystem.nasa.gov page on Mars. Now, if you notice here, we're inside of this page, and there's a lot to see here. They've definitely made this page look quite impressive. However, it might not necessarily always be the easiest way to focus because there's so many things on this page. So maybe what we need to do is we need to adjust this page so that we can focus on what it's trying to say. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to utilize the Immersive Reader. Now, there's a couple of different ways to utilize the Immersive Reader. You can utilize it via a right click, which is what I just did. I just right clicked it and then I select Open in Immersive Reader, which, by the way, also has a shortcut. It's F9. So if you ever want to use it, it's F9 in an application as well. But then at the same time, you'll also find that if the application, if Edge thinks that it'll try to study this particular page and try to figure out if it can use Immersive Reader quite well on it. And if so, you will see this icon up in the top right hand right here that looks like Enter Immersive Reader. So that's the other option that you see here. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and select Enter Immersive Reader. And this is what we get. Now we're currently inside of Immersive Reader. From this view right here, there are various things that we can do. Now, Currently, we haven't enabled any of those things, but they're all inside of these different tools up at the very top. So I'll show you some of them. The first ones I really want to show you are the reading preferences. Now they're the ones on the rightmost side here. So if I select reading preferences, what you'll find is that I can do things like line focus, which allows for me to focus specifically line by line, or I can decide that I want it to be every 3 lines. I can also adjust it to every 5 lines. Furthermore, another very useful feature in this reading preferences section is picture dictionary. Now, this is the kind of setting that I think is especially very useful for people, and I'm not saying these are the only people who it's useful for, but especially for people who English is not their first language. Or if the language that they're reading is not their first language in general, because I've found that even utilizing Immersive Reader is very useful for people who are trying to learn other languages as well, considering the fact that it supports many different languages utilizing the translation system. So if I wanted to go ahead and turn all of this text into another language, say for instance, Korean, maybe I want to work on my Hangul and I want to translate the entire page, then I can do so. And that's actually a great time for when picture dictionary comes into play, because if I have this enabled and I select a word, then it will try its best to use an image to describe that word. This is a helicopter, so this word means helicopter. So if it knows what the word is, it will give you this little, kind of like this magic wand. And now you see, I believe this word is orbit, because it's talking about going around a planet or going around the solar system. And both of these things describe orbiting. So this is the kind of thing that I think really helps. This tool helps people who are trying to better understand words. And I think especially one of the first things that came to mind for me was studying other languages. And maybe coming across a word and you're not sure what that word means. You might understand what the picture is that they are describing it with. So I can do this with many languages. I can switch it to another language. I can switch it to Italian. So if I want to work on my Italian, this might be a good reason to switch the language one more time. And I'm currently set to translate entire page. However, if I have it set to just the individual, or if I don't have this set, I can just select a certain word, and then I can see instead. Yes, I do have to have translate the entire page just specifically for Edge. But in some applications, you also can utilize it on a word for word basis, where you have translate selected, but then you can actually just select individual words and it will translate just that word. And then we will go ahead and switch it back. Well, it's already back in English. And now we will talk about some of the various grammar tools. Now, for those of us, and this is once again another one of those things that helps with language skills and language comprehension and understanding pronunciation with grammar. So things like breaking up words into syllables. That's something that we can also do here. So if we wanted to break up the words into syllables, we can do so. And we even can indicate what parts of speech each kind of word is. So I can decide to highlight all the nouns as purple. I can highlight all the verbs as red, all the adjectives as green, the adverbs as orange. And from here, what you'll also find is that I can customize these colors as well. So you don't have to use the ones that they have set. You can customize them yourself. And if you forget which ones you have set, that's okay as well, because you can go ahead and select show labels and it will show you exactly what kind of word they are. All right. So these are your grammar tools available to you. Alongside that, one of the most useful options is being able to select your text preferences. So if you find that you want to make the words bigger, that might help. For a lot of people, that does help. So making the words bigger definitely helps. Then text spacing, adding space between the letters, very, very useful. So you can add space between the letters. And then you also can change the font. Now, we might be familiar with Calibri because Calibri is actually a font style that is very common in, for instance, Microsoft Word. It's been there for, and actually all throughout the Office suite, it's been there for decades. However, this one, many people might not be familiar with this one. This one's called Sitka. Sitka was actually created to help with individuals and different kinds of folks who were dealing with the effects of dyslexia. So Sitka is one of the options that is available here. It makes some of the different letters a little bit different from each other. And so that is why that is an option here. And then there's Comic Sans, because why not Comic Sans? It's been around so long. Many of us will recognize Comic Sans, very natural way or an almost natural way of viewing handwriting. So now if we go even further down, and I'm going to move it back to Sitka. Now if we move even further down in the list, you will see once again text column style. So I can change the way that these columns look. So if I wanted to make different size columns, I could do that, increasing or decreasing the column. And then there's page themes. And page themes we have found comes in handy, especially for many different people want to read on a different kind of background. This is a very natural background that you see right here. It's a sepia theme, so it almost looks like natural paper. It's easier for some people to read this way. Others might find that they might like a dark theme when they read. They might like a black background with white words. That's also just fine. Some people might want a dark gray background with light gray words. That's also just fine, and all of these things are options. And you will find that we have an entire variety of different colors, maybe not quite as many as you will find in that 64 box of Crayola crayons, but still quite a bit. And then I'll go ahead and set it back to the way I usually like it. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to keep that gray. I found that I like that a bit more, and that's what the immersive reader is all about: finding the best way for you to receive the content that you're reading. And then last but not least, there is read aloud.
The latest.
And I did just realize that I might not be sharing my audio. Pardon me for that. I do want to point out that this actually is a very nice translator. It's not very, it actually sounds pretty good. It's quite impressive to me.
The latest from Mars. Mars is the fourth planet from the Sun, a dusty, cold, desert world with a very thin atmosphere.
Now there's something very interesting that I found, just a certain effect when it comes to the voice selection. There are many voices that you can select. This is Microsoft Aria. However, I can switch the language or I can switch not only the language, but I can switch the speaker. And what I'll find is that when you switch the speaker, but you don't switch the language, it actually kind of speaks in the rules of the other languages. It's very interesting. But you can, as far as the different voices, if you were to switch the language, maybe if I switched it to Japanese and then switched to read aloud.
The latest from Mars.
Oh, I didn't hit the.
Mars is the.
I did not hit, pardon me. I'll go ahead and once again, reading preferences, translate entire page, read aloud.
火星からの最新情報。火星は太陽から4番目の惑星です。非常に薄い大気を持つ埃っぽい、寒い、砂漠の世界。
So we have support for many different languages, as you see. If we go all the way up and down this list, there are quite a lot of translation systems and a lot of narration systems, and they sound quite natural in terms of how they speak compared to maybe the past. So I did want to point that out as well. All right. Any questions at this time? Anything that are there any questions inside of the Q&A that we can answer?
Hey Neil, Anthony here. Currently in the Q&A, we don't have any questions that haven't already been answered. But as always, we definitely do encourage them. So at any point throughout today's training, if you feel like you need another clarification, maybe another redemonstration, don't hesitate to ask in the Q&A. We are here to support, so feel free to use it. That is all I have from my side, Neil. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anthony. We will go ahead and continue from here then, but if there are any questions at all, definitely please post them inside of that Q&A. We really want to make sure that those questions are answered as we go forward. All right, so we're going to go ahead and close out of Microsoft Edge here. All right, so now we are back on the desktop. The next thing that I really want to go into is the various functionalities of some of the different Microsoft 365 applications, different things that are available for you to help to help you compose, to help you present. Now, I know that we only have about something like 15 minutes left, so hopefully I can get these various functions available for you. So the first one I really want to show you is actually in PowerPoint. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up PowerPoint, and we're going to go ahead and switch the user. And just give me 1 second here. We're just going to make sure that we have it right in the right spot. Here we go. So we're back here. And what we're going to do is we're going to open up one of these documents here, any particular document, but I really want to show you exactly what tool is available, especially for those of us who might not necessarily be able to, or maybe we might have some issues with different kinds of maybe if we have different kinds of issues when it comes to presentation. Many of us might need to adjust the way that we present, and there is a capability, a tool that's available inside of the system for that purpose. For those of us who want to be able to present in the ways that we need to. Maybe we need a coach sometimes. That's exactly something that we have available. And pardon me, it looks like there was some of my documents there were not loading the right way, but now we are good to go. So what we have available here, what I wanted to show you, is something that we have. Oh, looks like I'm also losing my mouse here for a moment. Let me just go ahead and give me 1 second. There we go. Okay. So here we are. We're back. And we're going to go ahead and talk about the way that we can various tools that are available here inside of PowerPoint to help with presenting. So what we're going to do is we're going to select slideshow. And what we're going to select is we're going to select Rehearse with Coach. Now, what Rehearse with Coach does is this is a really good way, especially when you're trying to get ready to present. You know, it's the night before, it's a week before. Some people like to prepare way more in advance, but we might have some anxiety with presenting. Maybe we're not used to presenting. That's a great reason after you've created your presentation to go ahead and use the Rehearse with Coach feature. So what we have here, I am in my slideshow. As you see, it's a report of research and development legal report. Report of research and development. Okay, so there's report and report. But what we're going to do is we're going to rehearse, and the coach is going to pay attention to how we're talking, pay attention to the different things that we're saying, and it's going to give us some feedback. So here we go. Report of Research and Development Legal Report. Hi, welcome. I am going to report to you the information that's in this report that isn't actually about anything. Now, as I am speaking right now, you may notice that it is listening to me in the bottom right hand. However, I want to point out what happens if, try not to use too many fillers like As you see, that is one of the tools that it shows you. If I continue on and I start speaking way too fast, and it's probably going to be very hard for you to understand exactly what I'm saying while I'm speaking this fast, I'm not really quite sure that it understands, it will tell me to try speaking a bit slower. Now, if I speak too slow, it will also warn me about that as well. Now, going through the different slides as I am speaking on different topics, if I start saying permission to test, XP38, OSHA code verification, Boston Laboratories, updated safety regulations in international research labs, and then I continue speaking and saying exactly what is on the slides, it will try to tell me that I am try to vary myself from what the slide actually says. Don't just read the slides, because it knows what's written on the slides as well. So if I start really talking and saying and just reciting exactly what's written, it will point that out as well. After going through all of the different slides and I have finished my report and I'm going all the way to the end, it will then give me a rehearsal report. And it will tell me how I did. It will tell me how my pace was throughout the report. It will tell me how much time I spent during the summary as well, how many slides I rehearsed as well, any kinds of fillers that I've been using, and then any sort of repetitive language as well as different things in terms of pitch. Now, these are things that we might not always be aware of. However, these are things that might play a very big part in the way that people receive our presentation. So because of that, that's the reason why we created this. Some people are definitely, I've definitely seen natural presenters before. Some people can just take any material and present it very well. And for those people, sometimes it took practice, other times it didn't, and they just were able to do it. And that's just the way that different kinds of people, that's neurodiversity. That's the difference between different kinds of people. Some people can do that. For those people who have trouble with that, that's why this is here. So we created this tool for those people who might need a little bit of extra help when it comes to presenting, because presenting is a very big part of our professional lives at times, but it might not necessarily be something that we're always prepared for. So if this helps somebody out there, I definitely hope it does. So I'll go ahead and close this one at this time. And we'll go ahead and first close out, and it looks like I might have lost my mouse one more time. Go ahead and there we go. Okay, so I'll go ahead and close out this screen, and we'll go ahead and jump once again into Word. Now, inside of Word, what you'll find is that in the different kinds of documents that we're working on here, and it looks like I might have some things with some of my, I think it might have just been because I just upgraded, so I might have to just log into this account one more time. Sometimes that happens, but when you're working inside of Word, I did want to point out that just like when we were inside of Edge, the place where you will find Immersive Reader will be under View. That's the same place. It'll be under View in all of the Office applications. So you'll find it right here under View. And I'll just, for the purpose of, and it looks like most of these files, it's not going to let me open, unfortunately, but here we go. It will be under View. That'll be the same with Excel. It'll be the same as well with OneNote as well. All right. Are there any other questions, or is there anything on the side of UT anything at UTD that you guys have to also provide input on, or any questions at all that have shown in the Q&A?
No questions currently in the Q&A. I love the content that you covered because it's all materials that I personally use myself just to make it easier to access and relate to content. So there's no questions. If there's anything else that you want to show us, feel free. But I don't have a good lead on anything that you missed. I love the content that you covered.
Excellent, excellent. And Anthony, are there any particular things that any things that you wanted to go over at this time?
Yes, Neil, I did want to bring up one more thing. In the Q&A chat, you may have noticed I've posted a survey link. This is where you guys can provide us feedback on what you thought about today's training. It will only take a few minutes of your time, so we will greatly appreciate if everyone can fill that out for us. It'll be like 6 questions long, and the first 3 questions is like, on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think about the training? So definitely fill that out for us. It will be greatly appreciated. That's all I have, Neil.
All right. Thank you very much, Anthony. I think the very last thing that I think I will go over, we're going to go ahead and just, we're going to jump into Teams. And I think that'll be the last place that we will take a quick look here. So if I jump into Teams very quickly, and I'm just going to quickly use the web client of Teams. There's a couple things I wanted to point out. So here in Teams, there are actually the same functionalities as you find inside of Office. So for instance, if I was to go into one of these channels, I just wanted to point out, and I'm going to go to a much larger post here. So we'll look for a larger post. Yeah, there's a bit more information inside of this post here. So what we can do is we can select the ellipses on this post, and what you'll find is things like Translate, as well as Immersive Reader. Now, Translate, in this case, Translate actually is utilized. It will always translate to whatever language you're set to inside of Teams. So if you're set to English, it will always translate to English. However, this was already English script, so because of that, it's not going to translate. However, if there was any information that was in another language, you would automatically have it translated directly to whatever language you have set inside of your settings in Teams. So if we go to the settings in Teams and we go down to under the general section here, if we go down and we will see language, app language, this setting right here, whatever language you have set as the app language is what it will translate to. So if somebody has created a post in Portuguese and you have your language set to English, then it will translate it to English. Now, another thing that I find very useful for many different people is the Do Not Disturb setting. For many people who might not be familiar, the Do Not Disturb setting actually has a secondary function beyond just indicating to others that your current status is Do Not Disturb. Do Not Disturb actually also withholds any notifications that you are being sent while you are working. Now, this is along the same vein as Focus Assist is inside of Windows. When you're using Do Not Disturb, if anybody sends you a message, if anybody's trying to call you or anything of that nature, you will not receive that notification until you've changed your status to another. So while you're under Do Not Disturb, people sending you messages, you will not receive that notification, because typically when you set yourself to Do Not Disturb, it's for the purpose of trying to focus. Now, however, I do want to point out one more thing. That also has a secondary setting that you can set for yourself if there's certain individuals who you want to always be able to contact you, even if you're in Do Not Disturb. And that is under Privacy in the settings. So if we go to the settings and we go to Privacy, what you'll find is here under Privacy, you will find Do Not Disturb. And the option priority access, manage priority access. If I select manage priority access, then I can select certain individuals who will have priority access to be able to contact me. Even if I'm in Do Not Disturb, I will receive notifications from these individuals. So, as you see, Josh, Kennedy, Nick, these individuals have the ability to contact me even when I'm in Do Not Disturb, and I will receive their notifications. Now, these individuals might be the people who you might often be working with when you're in Do Not Disturb. So that might be a good reason to have them selected as individuals to have priority access. Another type of person that usually ends up being in people's priority access might be their supervisors, because some supervisors always want to be able to contact you, but that's just another example. But other than that, that was really the last bit of information that I have for today. I'll just ask one more time, were there any final questions that have shown up, or were there any other final things that, like any final words that anybody had to say before we closed?
I have a few things just to wrap us up. Neil, that was great information. I did want to put the caveat there that if you're on Do Not Disturb and presenting, so you can go ahead and put me on screen, thank you. But if you're on Do Not Disturb and presenting and you have your boss's exception, just to be sure that your boss knows not to message you when you're presenting, because that will come through. So can we do the split screen, please? Thank you. And Neil, I love the product that you showed. We did have one question in the chat that I was going to go ahead and address, because we do have, Mac users here as well. And so we had a question as to, does the things that you demonstrated today also happen on Microsoft 365? Are those available? So for me personally, I use Microsoft 365 and to show my content and to show information, I use all of the Microsoft products on Office 365, as opposed to using the desktop version. So anything that you saw Neil doing with those accessibility features, like in PowerPoint, the recorder, I use that presenter coach all the time. I think it's a great tool. And that is available if you're using the office.com version. So we just wanted to make sure everyone had access to some of those tools.
I'm also pretty sure they're also available on the Mac version as well.
Perfect.
I'm quite sure that they're also available there too. Yep.
Okay, great. I hadn't tested it personally, so it's good to have that information. Well, as we're wrapping up, I know it's 3 o'clock. We just wanted to share some of our upcoming events. Joy has those on screen. They're also in the Q&A chat. There's a link to our slides, so you can get the links there. And finally, we just wanted to wrap up with next slide with sharing the details on our survey, in addition to the Microsoft survey. If you want to give us any suggestions on future content or other information, then you'll be able to share it there on that survey link. So thank you all for joining. Signing off from TechBar.